Yo, what's good, basketball heads? It's your boy Crush. So here go Gilbert Arenas once again with these wild takes. So now he's saying 90s basketball was trash, talking about nobody could score and everybody kept fouling. I don't know what Gilbert Arenas' beef is with the older players, dudes that came before him. For some reason, he's always going at it with these older players or, the era. And he just feels like the 2Ks is just better. I don't know why. So let's see what he had to say now. Yeah, so Gilbert Arenas said he believed that 90s basketball was subpar. Talking about it's a period when scoring was scarce and players were fouling a lot. So this is what Gilbert Arenas had to say. Gary Payton, first 4 years in the league, he was shooting 20%. He shot 125 threes. They moved the line 2 feet. He shot 915 threes in the next 3 years. This is when I knew they needed scoring. If you're telling me that I'm taking all the shots with my skill set with 28-inch verticals, what am I dealing with here? The fact that Gilbert Arenas is saying or he thinks that 90s basketball was trash is crazy. That's alarming to me. For someone who actually played basketball on a professional level to feel like 90s basketball was trash. 90s had some of the best basketball. This is no debate. But for some reason, Gilbert Arenas feels like anything pre-2K is garbage. I don't know what is his issue with. I don't know what that logic is like. They played better defense in the 90s, even if you want to say they didn't score a lot. They actually played defense. They played defense. Players were tougher, that's for sure. Yes, the game has evolved, it changed, and now it's a different ball game. But there's no way in hell you could tell me today's game is better than the 90s or the 80s. There's no way. But if you listen to Gilbert Arenas, that's his stance. The 2K players are better. Dudes from back then, they were scrubs, plumbers, all this. I don't get his notion with that because Kobe, Kevin Garnett, a lot of these players, they came from the 90s. I mean, yes, their era was in the 2Ks, but they started in the 90s. Kobe came in 96. Kevin Garnett came in 95. Stephon Marbury came in 96. All these dudes came in the 90s. They all came in the 90s. They played and transitioned into the 2Ks. So a lot of these great players that we love and know, they started in the 90s. But if you listen to Gilbert Arenas, the 90s was trash. There were no good players, beyond obviously Jordan, beyond Michael Jordan. Most of the players in the 90s, they weren't that good. This is Gilbert Arenas' stance. And every time you hear him speak, he's always shitting on the 90s and earlier. Anything pre-2K wasn't that good. And we all know that's cap. The 90s had some of the best basketball, hands down. But Gilbert Arenas will tell you it was all garbage. 90s basketball was garbage. The players weren't that good. They couldn't shoot, yada, yada, yada. Of course, the players today are going to be better at shooting because that's the main emphasis of the game. Back then, you had one or two specialists, right? But that wasn't the emphasis. It was more of a mid-range game. The game was played differently back then. So, of course, you're not going to have as much skilled shooters as you do now. I mean, that's just common sense. The game has evolved with Steph Curry influencing all these newer, younger players. Of course, the game is going to change to where dudes are coming in the league as snipers. Back then, that wasn't the case. You worked on your mid-range, your inside game, and your mid-range. You had a few specialists like Reggie Miller, John Paxson, Steve Kerr. You had your specialists, obviously. But most players, their focus was on the mid-range and the post game. Big men focus on the post game, the inside game. Players like Jordan, they were slashers and they focused on their mid-range. So I don't know what he's trying to get at talking about players couldn't shoot because it was a different time, Gilbert Arenas. And for somebody who was in his 40s and you would think he would be more sensible. Do Gilbert Arenas really believe the things he say or he's just saying it because he knows it's going to get views and clicks? I'm going to assume both, but come on, man. I mean, let's be real. A lot of fans, experts, everybody, we appreciate the 90s. It was competitive. There were a lot of rivalries. Everybody weren't buddies. The whole buddy system, everybody's cool with LeBron. Hey, what's up, homie? That wasn't going on. You actually had real rivalries and enemies. Dudes looked forward to playing each other. There wasn't all that hanging out and being best friends. Those were different times, and everybody focused on the mid-range and the inside game. There wasn't a lot of threes being taken unless you're a marksman or a specialist. You can't knock players for not being able to shoot beyond 15, 20 foot. That wasn't a thing back then. Just common sense. And I know Gilbert Arenas knows all this. I know he knows this. But even though, for some reason, he's always bashing, the older players that came before him. Your era is from the Kobe era. I mean, yes, you came in the 2Ks, but you wasn't that far from the 90s, I mean, at the end of the day, it's all subjective. Whether 90s basketball was good or bad, it's all subjective. But he sounds crazy. The ratings were up. Basketball was better in the 90s. There's no debate. I don't care what you want to say about players not being able to shoot as well. They're trash, whatever you want to say. The game was better in the 90s. Point blank. More competitive. You had rivalries. I'm not saying basketball today is terrible. No. But the quality went down a notch, a few notches. It's not the same quality. And that's a fact. In the 90s, the defense was characterized by physicality. Dudes could hand check you. They were physical. You got knocked on your butt. Clothesline. A lot of plays back then would be flagrant fouls today. It was that physical. Now you can't touch anybody. Any little thing is a foul. Why do you think a player like James Harden was so successful? Even when James Harden haven't been fouled, he gets the call. You can't do nothing. You could barely breathe on a player. Once the NBA changed the rules, no more hand checking, that basically shifted the game toward, a more offensive game. The league became more offensive. A lot of the focus of basketball in the 2Ks, is three-point shooting, fast-paced play, and floor spacing. The floor is more space compared to back then. It was more, cluttered. The spacing today is much better, and that's a fact, which has given the rise to high-scoring games. That's why you see dudes is dropping 70 points and, games is going way over 100 because of the floor spacing and the prevalence of the three-point shot. It's a different game, but there's no way in hell you're going to tell me that 90s basketball was trash. At this point, Gilbert has to be trolling. He has to be. There's no way. Do he really believe these things that comes out of his mouth? I mean, it's kind of hard to say if 90s defense could compete with the 2K offense. I mean, both eras have their own advantages, but calling 90s basketball trash and trying to bash players and all this nonsense, come on, man. Let me know what y'all think, man. Leave your comment below. But as always, I'll holla. As always, we just talking basketball. Hit the subscribe button, like, comment, share, holla at your boy.
It's all about the game and how you play it. It's all about the game. I'ma say it. It's all about the game.